Basketball can be a mysterious sport.
The team whose logo is in this envelope will have the first pick in the NBA draft.
Watch James. Now wanted a timeout, but too late to get it. And 5 minutes go up on the clock. Overtime here in game one.
Will Giannis win a title in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform?
It's hard for me to say that, Jay, considering how loaded the Lakers are. I don't know if you've been watching Taylor Horton Tucker over the last couple of days.
But what if those mysteries could be solved? What if those conspiracies are reality? The hoop truth is out there. Can you handle it? Sunday, October 16th. We finally made it. It feels like a blur personally, but there are points of the summer there that were just unbearable with the lack of NBA basketball drama or games being played. 2 days. This will drop tomorrow, Monday, October 17th. So when you're listening to this, it'll be 1 day until we've got the season opener. Dre, dude, the season's here. Your Wi-Fi's back. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. As people know, I know a lot of people that listen. I missed the last episode, the Bucks preview. Shout out to you guys for doing it. Y'all did an incredible job. I've been without Wi-Fi for like 2 to 3 weeks because of the Hurricane Ian that ended up hitting, and I was scared that I was not going to have Wi-Fi before the season. But it just came back on yesterday, and we're rocking and rolling. Let's get it.
Bless. That's Nick Andre at Nick Andre ATR on Twitter, by the way. If you're listening for the first time, if you're not, welcome back. Hope to the pod. First episode before the season now. From now on, it's going to be talking about actual games played beyond the preseason, obviously. But actual things being played. We should do our awards, but we still haven't done a Western Conference episode. Projections and predictions were the two words I was trying to mash. It really broke right there. We did the East like a month ago. Those have probably shuffled a little bit since then, but it's just an excuse also to talk about every team in the Western Conference as well. So that's what we're going to do. Let's start with the lottery teams. Dre, take a second to pull it out, but the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that won't play in the play-in, our projections wise. Dre, do you have those listed?
I do have those listed. You want me to start?
Yeah, let me hear your 5 and I'll compare with mine.
Okay, so 15 through 11 in the Western Conference. So 15, I have the Utah Jazz. Kind of hurts me because I'm expecting Colin Sexton to have a really good year, but we all know what the situation is in Utah. They are full rebuild mode. I'm not even really sure what Sexton's future looks like in Utah alongside other guys like Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson. So this team should be all in on going young, rebuilding with a lot of the young guys that they got in the draft and just moving forward. 14, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously, the loss of Chet Holmgren obviously impacts that. Yeah. Impacts that roster, impacts that team. But they still have guys like Josh Giddey, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still there, who, in my opinion, will still probably averages same averages as probably the season prior, about like 23, 24, and 25 a game. So definitely excited to see him, but we all know the situation. Oklahoma City still a rebuild team, still a very young team, lottery team. So it's just another season of development and experience. 13, San Antonio, like their team. A lot of people are sleeping on San Antonio this year. I know that they're not the like exciting team to watch, but they still got some young guys. Which one of the guys, in my opinion, is Josh Primo. I like him a lot. But another young team that's still on the rise. Obviously, with the legendary head coach Greg Popovich, I don't know exactly how many more years he has left, but it's gonna be a great year for us, San Antonio, in the rebuild. So look out for that. 12, Houston. Houston's going to be very interesting to me. Jalen Green actually had a really good preseason, even though I didn't watch most of the preseason because I didn't have Wi-Fi. I still got a chance to watch clips here and there. And Jalen Green definitely showed a lot of promise. Jabari Smith had a lot of promise as well. Even Sengun as well. So Houston Houston's up there in my opinion. Like when we talk about like a lot of the exciting young teams like Orlando and Detroit, they're up there in the mix in my opinion as far as like development. I don't think their ceiling may be as high as Detroit is right now, but they are going in a good direction. And then number 11, I have Sacramento. So I have Sacramento at 11, and I have Portland at 10. So I think those are the two teams that are probably going to be competing for that last spot. Sure. I know Sacramento's been a laughing stock over the last few years, but I think this year with the addition of Mike Brown as their head coach, they will be definitely moving into a better direction. I like the backcourt of De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. We obviously know what they were able to do at Kentucky during their college years. Sabonis is still there. Hopefully Sabonis will have a good year. Hopefully he can improve defensively. And then also one of my favorite guys is back with Sean Holmes, who brings a lot of versatility on offense and is a pretty good rim protector despite being undersized. So Sacramento, I know that they may be a laughing stock to many because of obviously the trash franchise that they've been since the like mid to late 2000s, but I think this year they'll take a big leap and go in a new direction.
So I think 4 of the 5 are easy to pick in the Western Conference. We just, unless a surprise run is made by any of them, it's that 5th one that we have some questions about. So I'll do the ones that you have as well. OKC, I agree. Chet's out. J-Dub and Ousmane Dieng look great in preseason. So does Jalen Williams. I just don't see – I don't – they're still at the point where they have a lot of talent, but it doesn't necessarily fit into puzzle pieces. I don't know if they have like a play style because of the players they have. They just play with talent. So I don't think that adds up to a lot of wins. A similar team like that is the Houston Rockets, who – early reports are Tari Eason isn't going to be in the rotation to start the season. Neither is Jayshawn Tate, which is pretty ridiculous to me.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me.
Tari should be starting at the 3 or 4.
Tari actually had a pretty solid preseason, didn't he?
He had a fantastic preseason. But Steven Silas and Raphael Stone, they had a weird rotation last year where Alperen Şengün wasn't playing. Don't forget that Eric Gordon is still on this roster, probably going to be starting for this roster. They haven't traded him yet. They have like 4 centers after they signed Bruno Fernando. So I think it's one more year for the Rockets, one more lottery pick, and they'll be there. But Jalen Green is going to show some people some legit shit this year. Utah and San Antonio, pretty much in the same boat, trading their players for multiple picks, signaling a rebuild and or a full-on tank. For Utah, it looks to be like they really would like to tank for Wemby this year, but they got to get the vets out of there. Mike Conley, buyout or trade, probably not a trade. Malik Beasley probably needs to be traded. Bojan's gone now. They waived Jared Butler, who they drafted like last year. That's a pretty bad look. And they waived Stanley Johnson, by the way. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Stanley Johnson should get scooped up pretty quick, no?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a bad look for Utah to get rid of Stanley Johnson, but he's a guy that I would definitely more so want to see on at least a playoff contender rather than a tanking team.
I expect him in Miami, but we'll see on there. With San Antonio, I agree. They still have some good pieces, and they've always won games when they didn't need to. I think people are assuming that because they trade DeJounte, they're going to try and lose as many games as they can this year, like they did last time with the Tim Duncan lottery. And I also subscribe to that, but assuming we know what San Antonio doing is something that we've been trying to do for decades and haven't been able to nail. So who knows? Maybe they win a bunch of games this year. What's his face? Jakob Poeltl is still the starting center. I'm sure he's available for trade. I'm not sure how much of a need there is out there. I could see him being moved at some point. Sean McDermott is another name to keep an eye on, but I like the kids. They give you a reason to watch the team this year. You mentioned it, Josh Primo, among others, like Trey Jones, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, their new draft pick, and Jeremy Sohan. But yeah, they're probably going to lose a bunch of games. That 5th team that's going to miss the play-in, you've got either the Kings or the Blazers right now. This might be bias on my end, but straight up, I've got the Lakers there right now. I just don't see it. I think the roster is better than last year, but that doesn't guarantee healthy seasons. Anthony Davis is already being held out of preseason games with back tightness. And the guys they acquired aren't necessarily super healthy in their careers either, with guys like Patrick Beverley. I think they're better, but there's still no shooting.
I
they
agree
need
to that.
something. So I still think that they're going to make a move. Either it's going to be that double move where they get Turner and Heald from the Pacers, or they get someone like Terry Rozier and or Gordon Hayward from the Lakers, something that I've been playing around with on the trade machine. I think they're going to do that. And when they do that trade, they will be in the playoffs for me. I could even give them a 6 seed if they acquire 2 more legitimate rotation players that are shooters. But right now, maybe it's just credit to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I just don't see it right now.
Right. And I mean, you honestly made some good points when you talk about the Lakers, especially with the lack of shooting, because I was having a conversation about somebody about, like what would the backcourt look like? Could you put Westbrook and Patrick Beverley in the backcourt? But I'm thinking Patrick Beverley is not really he can make shots, but he's not a knockdown shootor.
Right.
And we all know Westbrook has been struggling on the perimeter for at least for the past few years now. Right. So when you have a guy like LeBron James, who is really an elite passer, you got to have surrounding shooters. We've seen it in Cleveland. We saw it at Miami.
Right.
So that is definitely what the Lakers are definitely lacking, which is part of the reason why I hate that they allowed Malik Monk to walk and go to Sacramento, because he was arguably their best consistent shooter for most of last year. So that's definitely a bad loss. And in my opinion, I like Lonnie Walker, but I don't think he's more of an upgrade compared to Malik Monk. So that is something.
Yeah, they couldn't pay Malik what Sacramento offered him. It sucks because he would be the starting shooting guard in the Lakers right now. Pat Bev.
That's a fact.
Pat Bev, Malik Monk isn't like, if you have 2 top 5 players like LeBron and AD, that's not a terrible backcourt to have. They could use more wings. They've got nothing. I don't think they're going to get Jay Crowder from the Suns. So I just do not really see them having the roster cohesion. Maybe Darvin Ham squeezes it at them. I think they'll have a good defense. I just don't see how they score points. And in this Western Conference, you need to score points. We're going to see how deep the West is in a couple minutes now. So let's move right in. You had the Kings missing out. I got the Kings at 10 right now, so I'm not far off on that projection. I like the way that they built their team. I personally wouldn't have traded Halliburton for Sabonis, obviously, and I would have tried to tank this year for Wemby, but Sacramento is trying to make the playoffs this year. I guess in the scope of that, they're doing the right things. Fox and Sabonis plus wings and shooters, I like that as a mix for a roster. If it's well executed, I think it's a playoff team, and I think Mike Brown is a coach who can coach a team well enough to make the playoffs, not that he's a championship caliber coach. I think they're I don't know how they win more games than the 9 teams that we list above them, but I think it works. I like a starting lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes. I think they're starting KZ Okpala at power forward, and then Domantas Sabonis. The shooting in the front court isn't great, but there's really good shooting with a couple guys. And you've got Malik Monk, Davion Mitchell, Rashawn Holmes, as you mentioned, Keegan Murray, who could be
I forgot about Keegan Murray
off the bench. They got really 10 guys that are good at basketball and good at specific things in basketball. And I have hope in Mike Brown having them defend well enough. I think they're a better team than the Blazers. I just have them a little bit far ahead because of talent level. But I think as a team, they're going to play better than the Blazers. How do you feel about that?
I mean, you definitely made some good points. Sacramento is one of the more intriguing teams, at least over the past offseason. Obviously, the drafting of Keegan Murray is definitely a really big upgrade. I mentioned before, the signing of Malik Monk. So Sacramento especially having that new coach of Mike Brown, because Mike Brown, he's not a championship coach, but he's proven that he can get teams to the playoffs and really instill and preach defense within the team. So that's definitely an upgrade for the Sacramento Kings. But for number 9, I did put Portland, and I guess I don't know if you can say one is better than if one is better than the other, but I think they're kind of the same projection. But the reason why I put Portland is because if Dame does play at least 75% of the season, I still think that they can at least make the play-in. Now the question is, can they make it past the play-in? I'm not sure about that, but the Portland roster isn't that bad to me. I still feel like Dame can at least lead this team to the play-in tournament. I mean, you still have guys like Jeremy Grant, Shaedon Sharp, who had a really good showing in the preseason. And for a few games. Anthony Simons, in my opinion, this is me. I don't really see him being a starter for this team. I don't really know if I would start him alongside Dame. To me, I view Simons as that Jordan Clarkson for for Utah. You know,
Yeah.
being that six, bringing that energy off the bench. There's nothing against him. I just feel like that would be more of his role for this team. You still got Nurkic, who doesn't really have a lot of mobility, but he can still give at least some production. Nasir Little and the rest of these guys. So Portland, obviously roster wise, this is not a championship team whatsoever. Right. But in my opinion, with a healthy Dame, with Dame averaging his averages throughout his career, I feel like he can still at least get them to the play-in.
I also have the Blazers at 9. The more I look at it, maybe I should have the Kings above. But yeah, I think you know.
I'm sorry, 10. I'm sorry.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, 10. My bad.
You're good. So, but we have those in the same area. The thing with, I agree with you that I wouldn't start Dame with Simons. I'd probably start Gary Payton at the second.
That's right.
Nice defender.
That's honestly, yes.
But I think they're starting Simons, one, because I think they started Dame with CJ for so long that they know that they can get away with 2 non-defenders in the starting backcourt and make the playoffs. They can't win the title that way, but they know they can win the playoffs. And they just gave him 4 years, $100 million. So it probably feels bad if you don't start Anthony. It's fine. They have a good wing room to go with them. Josh Hart and Jeremy Grant to round out the wings in the starting lineup there is pretty solid. They're going to play defense. They can self-create a little bit. They can shoot better than – it's like Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, but supercharged from back in the day for them. Yusuf Nurkic, like you mentioned it, he's a good player. He's got good touch around the basket. He's a bruiser, gets rebounds, pretty prototypical European 7-footer. But he doesn't offer any versatility on really either side of the floor. He'll shoot some threes, but he won't really make them, and he can't defend in space. So they're pretty limited there, and it's not like they have a big off the bench. You can go Jeremy at 5, and I'm sure they'll try some of that, but beyond that, they don't have a lot of options. Shaedon Sharpe showed up for a couple games. Let's see if he shows up in the regular season. That would be cool. Gary Payton, we mentioned off the bench. Nasir Little re-signed. I like him. I'm not sure if there's Trenton Watford and Greg Brown III are guys that excelled after they started tanking last year. I don't know how much minutes they're going to get. It's a super mid team. I think Chauncey Billups is a worse coach than Mike Brown, so I probably wouldn't.
I could agree to that.
So I'm more excited about watching the Kings because I think they're going to play a more fun style of basketball, and the Kings making the play-in is much more exciting than the Blazers, but the Blazers are just mid. So that means you have the Lakers at 9, or do you have?
I have the Lakers at 9. To me, it's just so hard to see the Lakers miss the playoffs for 2 straight seasons. And I was watching a few of the preseason games, especially I watched one against Phoenix, and I watched the recent one or the last one that they played against Sacramento. Even though they got blown up by like damn near 40, but I will say that I like the Lakers. I mean, I'm not gonna say I like it, but it's definitely a lot better than what it was last year. I think last year they had a lot of old vets who did not deserve to be on the team. Like DeAndre Jordan was one of them before he ended up being released from the team. Dwight Howard was there. Even though I still like Dwight Howard, I just don't think that he is a good fit for this particular Lakers team. So I like the fact that they went young in the front court. They got Damian Jones. They got Thomas Bryant, who had a really great showing with the Wizards for the last few years. So I definitely like that. They still like shooting, as you mentioned earlier. I don't see Patrick Beverly being a knockdown shooter for this team. I don't see Lonnie Walker being a knockdown shooter for this team. So they definitely still fail in all aspects of that. But I guess I'm just trying to be optimistic with the team. I'm hoping that Anthony Davis at least plays more than 50% of the games this year. If he could play at least around 65 games, honestly, if he could stay healthy, that'd be great. But then again, like you mentioned, he did miss some time in the preseason due to back issues. So that's definitely not a good look for the team going into the regular season. And hopefully Russell Westbrook can possibly try to figure out how to play alongside LeBron James, because I just don't want to see LeBron James in year 20 having to carry this team after 30 points a game. I know that he's in the best shape of his career and everything, but that's not what you're going to expect out of LeBron, especially if you're trying to win a title. You want to save his energy. You want to save him for the playoffs. But I'm just trying to have at least a little bit of optimism for the Lakers this year. I'm not saying that they're going to win a title. I definitely don't think that. But it's also hard for me to see them miss the playoffs for 2 consecutive years.
Sure. I have similar thoughts, different conclusion, obviously, there. Again, I think they're going to make that trade for 2 rotation players, and at that point, I would have them as a playoff team. Until they do the trade, though, I don't have them any higher than missing the play-in. So this is where it gets really messy, right?
Yep.
1 through 8 in the West, these teams are really stacked on paper, so it's going to take a lot of injury reactions and chemistry fits with new additions to see how it shakes out. I doubt we're going to have it the same. But number 8 for me, I have the Dallas Mavericks.
That's mine too.
Oh, beautiful. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Dallas. I like their roster. Starting lineup is mid. Luka Doncic and Spencer Dinwiddie as your backcourt. Probably Reggie Bullock, even though he was on the trade market. Dorian Finney-Smith and JaVale McGee confirmed that Christian Wood is going to be treated as a 6th man. Confirmed that Jaden Hardy is on the outside looking in on the rotation. That's a quote from Jason Kidd. He likes him, but he says he's on the outside. Same with Josh Green, who we don't really care about. I don't know if they're maximizing their. I think they're going to have a good defense, and that's going to prop up a good team. I just don't know how they win more games than anyone else above them on this list. Dre, what are your thoughts on the Mavs?
I agree. I'm not really a big fan of the starting lineup. It's just not really intriguing to me. I mean, we all know what Luka is. We all know what he's capable of doing. We know with his passing ability and his ability to really be a facilitator, we know that he can get other guys involved and really help them be productive on the offensive end. But it's just tough to me, man. I don't know what Jason Kidd is doing, but I would definitely want to insert a guy like Jaden Hardy in the rotation, especially after what a pretty solid preseason that he had, and then especially in the summer league as well. That's just my opinion, but I think Dallas needs another star, in my opinion. I mean, and I was talking to Kev about this. Shout out to Kev. In this league, you need multiple, or at least 2 all-stars on your team. And I mean, I know that Luka is capable of leading a team to the playoffs. I mean, we saw last year when he led them to the conference finals, but nobody projects this Dallas team of really ever making it out of the West or even winning the title. So, in my opinion, Dallas is probably an all-star away. And I think Jason Kidd just really needs to probably fix the rotations a little bit. And I'll be honest, man, Christian Wood is a 6th man for this team, but I don't know if he really wants to fully accept that, or even if that's really going to be something that's going to be long-term for the team. So, in my opinion, I don't really see Christian Wood being with the team really long-term. If he's not traded by mid-season, he'll probably maybe not be a part of the team after this season. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, he's in a contract year, and he's extension eligible. I'm sure he would love a pricey extension from the Dallas Mavericks. Also kind of surprised that Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't an automatic starter. Maybe he is instead of Reggie Bullock, but I'd rather start those 2 together instead of Spencer Dinwiddie. I get what they're doing with Dinwiddie. They're trying to replicate the Brunson production. I really don't see it happening for Dinwiddie. Brunson is an undervalued prospect in terms of the scoring, and Dinwiddie I don't think is going to replicate it very well.
No, not at all.
They have some pieces, and they really haven't they traded a few of their picks for Kristaps, but I'm pretty sure those have conveyed at this point. If someone becomes available, I'd love for them to take a stab, because you're right. This roster is really solid for around Doncic, but you need another top guy to help take some of the pressure off. And I thought Wood might be it, but they're not even going to give him the opportunity. And Jaden Hardy could develop into a good 6th man scorer, but they're not going to give him the opportunity to do so. So Dallas at 8 seems right. Could happen higher because Doncic is always an MVP pick, but 8 for now is safe. 7, I have the Phoenix Suns.
Ooh, okay.
Low. How about you? Well, you don't have to tell me who you have, but you don't have them down there.
I don't have them down there. I have Minnesota at 7.
Okay. Let me go Phoenix. CP3 is older. Ayton doesn't seem super happy to be there. Their bench is pretty bad right now. They got no bench. Campaign is fine. Landry Shamet is a little less than fine. Josh Okogie is their main wing off the bench, which is fine if you have more wings, which they really don't. I don't know who their backup power forward is, with Jay Crowder being on the trade block. And then Bismack Biyombo as their backup center. Apparently, Jock Londell is playing well in preseason as their third string center, as if that matters. And the starting lineup, maybe Mikal takes a jump, maybe Cam Johnson takes a jump. I can't see DeAndre Ayton being much better than he was last year. Same with Booker or CP3. So I don't really see where the improvement comes in for a team that admittedly won 64 games last year. But a lot of that, I mean, not a lot of that, but they lose their sixth man, JaVale McGee, who almost had a sixth man caliber season if he didn't have to start so many games for an injured Ayton. I don't know how they're better than some of these teams. And if they lose a player to an injury like CP3 or Booker, they have even less depth to cover them this year. I think they're susceptible to an injury. Let me hear your thoughts on that, and then we can talk about your number 7 team, the Wolves.
Well, in my opinion, Phoenix is kind of a cooked product. I still think that they could be playoff contenders, but in my opinion, after this year, you got to blow it up. I don't see CP3 being there any longer. I just feel like it's just time for something new. They had their finals appearance a few years back, and then we all know what happened last year in that collapse against Dallas.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't really see them being any better. So I actually have Phoenix as my 5 seed.
That's not bad.
Just getting ahead of myself. I still think that they are capable of at least being a playoff contender, but I definitely don't see them being better than the other 4 or better than the other 4 teams that I have listed. So that's just my opinion. But for 7, I did have Minnesota. I like Minnesota this year. I like them this year. I think the front court of Rudy Gobert, Cat will work, especially on the offensive end. Cat is more of a stretch big, so that definitely gives him opportunity to really thrive on the perimeter and really be able to do what he does. And then we all know what Anthony Edwards is going to bring. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think Anthony Edwards can average around 27 a game this year. That's just my opinion. I think he's going to have a really big season. I hope that D'Lo can have a really improved season as well, because he's been more of like the outlier guy for me, if that's even a word. At least a part of the T-Wolves rotation. But I hope that D'Lo can also have a pretty solid season. But they still have other great guys as well. But this season will be more of an experiment. I know people are on Twitter kind of clowning Karl Anthony Towns because of his bad perimeter defense. I don't know if you saw the video, but there was a video of him struggling to really defend.
It's fine.
Yeah, but I still think that Minnesota can have a pretty solid season, to say the least. I still think that they still have a little bit more room to grow, but this will be a really good year for them.
I have my thoughts on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to save them for when I have them listed. For Phoenix, I'm probably too low. I think I'm low on them than more people, and I don't think that necessarily means they're going to be as low as 7, even though I have them there. But I don't think they're going to have much success in the playoffs. And yeah, I actually blowing it up is probably an extreme word to use, but Chris Paul, when they flame out in the playoffs, has historically just left teams, and Ayton, if they lose, might get traded too. And at that point, it's Cam Johnson, Mikal, and Book that you keep around, obviously. Dre, who do you have at 6?
So for 6, I have the Pelicans, and me and you, we both love this team. I think this team is going to be really big, and I've been on Twitter even to say that a healthy Zion could be an MVP candidate, because we got to remember, before the year before last, he averaged around 27 a game on 62-63% shooting, which is absolutely insane. So, and that's why I love the fact that he's matched in the front court against Valanciunas, is because Valanciunas is a really good floor spacer, so he can play on the perimeter and allows Zion to attack the basket. So there's nobody clogging the lane. Whereas Steven Adams, or the season prior, he was not a floor spacer whatsoever, so he was kind of clogging the lane. But even then, Zion was still able to thrive and really go to work under the basket. So I definitely like that. B.I. Brandon Ingram's going to have another solid year in my opinion. I love the combination of him and CJ McCollum. We saw it last year with the team obviously getting to the playoffs, and I think this year would be even better. Herb Jones is my guy. He's your guy as well. Yeah. He's going to be, in my opinion, he's going to be all defensive first team. If he is a starter on this team, I'm not sure if Willie Green is going to start him or not. But if he is, I feel like he will be on defensive first team. And that's only just like, that's only like the beginning of the Pelicans. I mean, they definitely still have an abundance of other great role players around them. This is going to be a really big year for them, especially with Zion being back.
I am also putting the Pelicans at 6. I have my thoughts on them. On paper, one of the best rosters in the league. Starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas is a lot of talent there. You got a backup lineup with Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Jackson Hayes, not to mention guys like Dyson Daniels that are still there as well. Um, I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Last year, we saw a really fire-powered Pelicans team push the Phoenix Suns in the first round, with CJ McCollum taking a lot of shots, Brandon Ingram taking a lot of shots, Jonas Valanciunas taking a lot of shots, and now you're adding not just another person to that mix, but arguably the guy that needs the most shots out of those three. And I don't think any of those guys are selfish or going to have an issue with that, but it's going to take time. And I think it'll lead to some late game snafus with who takes the last shot and
That is
a young
true.
team that hasn't been put in those situations before. 6 is a good spot for them. I could see them higher, but I have a. You guys are going to be really pissed when I have this come out.
Oh, goodness.
It's fine. At five, I am cool with the Memphis Grizzlies. Here's my opinion with them. They were second in the league in the Western Conference last year with 56
Did
wins.
you already say you're 6?
Yeah, 6 was Pelicans as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we matched there. 5
Okay.
is Memphis. I don't know how they get better. Ja surprises us every year by getting better, so I'm not surprised if he does. JJJ is coming off a DPOY caliber type of season. I could see him being more disciplined on the defensive end, but not necessarily better as a defender. Does Zaire Williams take a leap? I don't think it happens this year. Does Desmond Bain take a leap? Does Desmond Bain have another leap to take? Because people seem to think that he has this huge ceiling, and I'm not sure I'm fully bought on that. They got another slew of young guys in: Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, Kennedy Chandler, guys that are going to need minutes, but they need some time to come along. They lost veterans last year. They had Kyle Anderson that went to the Timberwolves. I don't know where the improvement comes. I could see the record being similar, and they're still fifth in the West. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
last season, you've got a few teams in the 50s. I could see them at 50 something wins and still be fifth in the West. I just don't see how they get better this year. And I don't think last year is good. I don't think what they were last year is good enough for a top 3 seed in this year's Western Conference. Who do you have at 5? How do you feel about what I just said about the Grizzlies?
Um, I'm not mad at that. I mean, we're honestly not too far up. I actually have Memphis as 4,
Okay.
but for number 5, I have the Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
We obviously mentioned,
Right.
yeah, we obviously mentioned them earlier. We all know the drama that's surrounding this team, not only just on the court, but off the court as well. And they didn't necessarily get better, in my opinion, especially with a tough Western Conference with the Clippers coming back and the Nuggets bringing back their other 2 all-star caliber players in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. It's crazy because I got a lot of slack last year because we all know Phoenix was the best team last year, and even when they were the best team, I never had Devin Booker as far as my MVP, like as far as like a top 5 MVP, and I got a lot of slack for that. And this year, in my opinion, he probably will be the same, averaging around like 24, 25 a game, but I don't really see Phoenix really taking a big leap.
Right.
They could possibly make it past the first round, depending on who they play, but another Western Conference Finals or an NBA Finals appearance, I don't see it.
Number 4. I have the Golden State Warriors. My thing with them is I think giving minutes to the younger players is going to help them long term for sure. Dante DiVincenzo taking over the Gary Payton II role, Jonathan Kuminga stepping into more of the Otto Porter Jr. role, Moses Moody coming in to get some more scoring off the bench, Jonathan Kuminga trying to soak up the backup center minutes. If not, JaMychal Green can step in. I just think it's going to be rusty. They need time. It's not just one young player they're plugging into the regular rotation. It's multiple, and I think it's going to take some time because it's a very cerebral system that they run on the court. Jordan Poole got paid. Andrew Wiggins got paid. Big shouts to those boys for paychecks and what they're probably going to bring into the regular season. Regular season starting lineup, probably Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney. Really solid. A lot of wins in the Western Conference. I just think they got a lot of help from the veterans that they had on the bench last season, especially for regular season wins and when they had injuries. And this year, they're not going to have that crutch as much. Dre, how do you feel about that, and who's at number 4 for you?
Not mad at that. Honestly, I'm gonna save my my comments on the Warriors once I get to them. But for number 4, I did mention that I do have the Memphis Grizzlies.
Right.
This is gonna be another interesting year to say for the Grizzlies. I don't know if they can recreate the same magic that they made last year. Like, I don't like. Obviously, they were a 2 seed last year. I don't think that they will be that, especially as the Western Conference has gotten a lot tougher. But I still feel like, you know, having a really good coach that they have, and then of course, you know, I feel like Ja can definitely reemerge like an MVP favorite. But that is a question, like, you know, is Dylan Brooks going to take that next step with Zaire Williams? The thing about Zaire Williams is that Zaire has to get the opportunity, so that's going to be up to Taylor Jenkins to really give him the opportunity to really, because in my opinion, he could be a great scorer, he could be a great playmaker, but he has not really gotten the full opportunity to do that. I saw a little bit of it in the preseason, but that doesn't mean that it's going to transition to the regular season. So that's definitely my opinion with that. Because in my opinion, they're probably going to have Tyus Jones as their backup point guard.
Yeah, again, who's just a perfect backup point guard. Starter for a lot of teams.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So that's going to be like what the projection's going to look at the point guard position. I like what you said about JJJ. In my opinion, he's definitely going to be another great defensive player. But in my opinion, I want to see him add a little bit more offense on the offensive end, because even last year, he can score around the rim, but he's shown to be way more of like a stretch big, in my opinion. Like, you know, he's more of a catch and shoot
presence.
Just a little more versatility. Sure. You know, I don't mind him, you know, knocking out shots, because I definitely love the floor spacing, but I would love to see a little bit more versatility, because that's what I projected him to be anyways when he came into the league. But I think that he's kind of been more content with being just a floor spacer and just a stretch big. So I would definitely want to see more of that. But even though the West has gotten a lot tougher this year, especially with the Clippers coming back and the Nuggets bringing back their core guys, I still think Memphis can still be one of the top contenders in the West.
I like the thoughts there. I think they're super, super solid. And honestly, I think playoff seeding means nothing for playoff success this year. Like, I got Golden State at 4. They're probably still my pick beyond, you know, one team that we haven't covered yet to make it to the finals. Like, I still have the Warriors as a Western Conference Finals team. I just don't know if the regular season success is going to be massive for them. Number 3, this is where it gets fucking real, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hate me, and that's fine. And I will explain myself fully. And if this doesn't come to fruition, even if it does, if you want to clip this, anyone that's listening or watching, and put it out there to make fun of me, that's fine. At number 3, I have the Timberwolves. Here's my argument, okay? Here's the starting lineup. D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. In my opinion, the Gobert addition makes them a top 3 regular season team, just as it did for the Utah Jazz year after year after year. He props up a regular season defense that you don't have to clean up as much, and that just infinitely adds wins to your regular season. Obviously not infinitely. I think it's going to be a huge season for Jaden McDaniels. Don't forget who their free agent pickup of the offseason was before they traded for Gobert. Kyle Anderson is still coming off the bench, brings a lot of versatility to this roster.
I like that. And I think Memphis is going to miss that to a degree.
Exactly. That's part of the reason that I have Memphis lower than them. I think I like Naz Reid. I like who's the wing? Taurean Prince that they have. They drafted Wendell Moore Jr., who might get some run, but probably not. They've got Bryn Forbes for shooting. They brought in Eric Paschal on a 2-way contract. They did a really good job of filling out the bench with guys that they're going to have to find minutes for Austin Rivers. They got Luke Garza on a two-way, and then Jordan McLaughlin. I know they really like him off of the bench as their guard. I just see Fincher, Chris Finch's system working. I just see it working for the Timberwolves in the Western Conference. They're big. They can go small if needed. They've got a lot of isolation scoring. They've got playmakers. They've got defenders on the perimeter and in the paint. I just see it working for the regular season and then like a first or second round exit because that's what always happens. But I think they bought themselves a top 3 seed. I know that you're not agreeing with me, Dre, but do you see the vision?
I can see it to a degree. I mean, Minnesota's still going to be up there, in my opinion, as a good team. Even though I don't have them as high as 3. But honestly, I'll be honest, depending on who they play in the first round, like, you got to think last year, they were close to knocking off the Grizzlies. Like, and this is before Rudy Gobert. And this was a team that really did not have a lot of playoff experience, to say the least. I want to say, obviously it was Ant-Man's first playoff appearance. No. It wasn't D'Lo's first playoff appearance because he ended up going to playoffs with Brooklyn. But even then,
That's
like
right.
a lot of these guys, they still didn't have a lot of like great playoff run. And I mean, I know that Memphis didn't either, but they had they showed a lot of toughness in that Minnesota series. So that's something to definitely be proud of. So I'll be honest and say that their ceiling could be second round. Depending on who they play. Like, in my opinion, like if they were to play a team like Phoenix, I could see them beat Phoenix. I don't know if it would happen, but I could definitely see them beat Phoenix. But I like Minnesota. I know that Gobert is not really the most popular player in the league, but he definitely adds defensive versatility to the team, which I do like. In the front court of him and Karl-Anthony Towns does make sense. I know a lot of people were disputing that, but in my opinion, it definitely makes sense, especially on offense.
It works. I think it works. Especially offensively, where a Cat likes to roam the perimeter anyways. He does some post stuff, but it hasn't always looked very pretty. Not that Rudy's eventually, just going to become this crazy post player either, but I'm also super bought in on Jaden McDaniels. Super.
I love Jaden McDaniels.
I think he's going to have a great fucking season for Minnie, and I think he's going to be their starting 3 the whole time. I'm super into the Timberwolves. I think the product works. I think for the regular season, they have they have the coach to draw up a system that will work on both ends to rack up a lot of wins. I think a lot of people say the Pelicans are this year's Grizzlies. I think it might be the Timberwolves. Who do you have at 3?
This is definitely where it gets fucking tricky. For number 3, I have the Clippers.
Okay.
The Clippers are going to be back. Kawhi is back. Paul George is back, but John Wall is here, and I think that adds a lot of versatility to the team. And I was watching how people were disputing about who should be the starting point guard, whether it should be John Wall, whether it should be Reggie Jackson. With all due respect to Reggie Jackson, I think it should be John Wall, in my opinion. I think that John Wall has shown that he can be a leader on the floor. I mean, Reggie Jackson has to a degree as well, but I think that John Wall can do it to a higher degree. I feel like he can mesh well in the lineup with Kawhi and with Paul George as well. And then not to mention they still got guys like Zubac as well. I like Robert Covington on the team. They got Norman Powell on the team as well. Oh yeah, he's gonna be, in my opinion, like, could you see him being like a 4 on the team, like with Kawhi and PG in the lineup? Like, could you see that happening?
Who'd you say as a 4?
Covington.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, him, Batum are probably the 4s. I could see Covington playing the 5. They said that I have some news from Ty Lue that I have some news about me talking about the Clippers after we cover everything. But Ty Lue first, he says Reggie Jackson's going to start. I agree with you. John Wall, 5-time All-Star. He's a leader. He's been a number 1 option before, definitely more experienced, but I think it underrates Reggie Jackson's impact to the Clippers since he's been there. He was a large
he's been great.
Detroit. And last year, so much fun. When Kawhi and Paul George were out,
We're
he was
not there, yeah.
basically the star of the team. Game winners, dunks, shots, buzzer beaters. He was doing all of that, and I think that team really, really respects Reggie Jackson. I think he's starting only for the reason that he deserves it, and I don't think John Wall has a problem. I think John Wall is just happy to play basketball this year, and
That's
I think
true.
he's going to fuck up that second unit. For the second unit, they don't have a backup center. They have Moses Brown and Musa Diabate, who I actually kind of like on two-way contracts, so they will probably mix in. But Ty Lue said the plan is to play Zubats for half of the first quarter, pull him, and go small with 5 out. At that point, that's when I expect Robert Covington to come in as the backup center, as the 5, Batum as the 4, and you probably swap out Reggie Jackson for John Wall, and you just let him go fucking nuts. So I am so excited. I'm going to be watching a lot of Clippers games in person this year. I got more on that later. That's your number 3. That's cool. They're my number 2, so that we can talk about them even more right now. Best roster on paper in the NBA. I don't think you can disagree with that, right?
They're up there. I think they're up there. I like the Pelicans too on paper as well.
Sure.
There's a lot of good teams.
On paper, right now, starting lineup: Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. I think they start Batum.
Probably Batum, yeah.
And then Ivica Zubats. But you've got a stacked bench: John Wall, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey. All these kids can play. Ty Lue is one of the best, one of the most battle-tested playoff coaches and regular season at this point that you could ask. I would have them going to the finals right now, and I would probably have them winning the finals right now. Of course, health is a factor. I have like a gut feeling that they're going to be healthy for a lot of the year. And even if it doesn't, like they're going to rest a lot of guys, that's for sure. But we just mentioned them. They're so deep right now. They have so many wings. Marcus Morris, he's starting at the 4.
Oh, yeah, Marcus Morris,
we didn't talk about him. Luke Kennard, we didn't even talk about. They're the deepest team in the league, and they've got shooting, they've got defense, they've got passing, they've got big men. Ivica Zubats is the perfect big man for that roster, who doesn't need more touches than they give him. I think number 2 is a pretty good call for them. Dre, you don't have. Are you a little homer? You got your little Golden State Warriors all the way at number 1, or you stop them?
Oh no! So my number 1 is gonna be interesting, man, and I definitely want to hear your take. But I have the Warriors at 2 because
cool. I think we
obviously they're the champs. We all know that, but I definitely agree that I think they will be faced with a little bit with some challenges this year, particularly with the youth.
Yeah,
because we all know how talented they are. Moses Moody, James Wiseman is coming back, Kuminga is there, DiVincenzo is there, but they are lacking a little bit of veteran presence in the second unit. Which it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because at the end of the day, you have younger guys. Because at the end of the day, these guys are the future of the team. Once Steph, Clay, and the rest of these guys, Draymond fade away. But it's all kind of a bad thing at the same time because you're missing a lot of those guys, who know how to win games. So, do you really trust guys like Moses Moody, these guys to really help you win games? Moses Moody showed on occasion. I think he had a game against Denver where I can't remember exactly what he scored, but I think he scored about like 30 plus.
Yeah,
so he's shown, he's shown on occasion that he can be a top option on the floor with the team, but I don't know if he's really going to be the guy that you trust to really win games. But honestly, I would love to see, because I definitely don't think that Wiseman is a starter at this stage yet, but I would hope around maybe mid-December, early January, he could possibly creep into the starting role. I don't know. Well, it's kind of tough because Kevon Looney has been great for us, but he still is undersized, has no athleticism whatsoever, so that definitely does play a role. But we've seen in preseason, James Wiseman has really meshed with these guys. Like, him and Draymond has obviously had that chemistry. He was working well with Steph in the pick and roll. So Wiseman, to a small degree, has shown that he can mesh with a lot of these guys. So we'll just see as the season progresses if his role can increase moving forward.
Yeah, I think Looney is like perfect center for what they like to do out there right now. It would be nice if Wiseman flashed some of that top 2 pick talent a little bit more often. Even if he doesn't, JaMychal Green is going to fill that center role backup center role perfectly.
That's true.
So yeah, I don't hate them at 2. So we both have the Nuggets at 1 then, right?
It's crazy because I actually picked them at 1, and I didn't expect you to either though. Like it's crazy.
This is the year that the Nuggets are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. It's just it's fate. We're prophesizing right now. I just think they're going to be healthy this year. That
I
starting
agree.
lineup is great, and their offseason, we're going to talk about their offseason too. One thing that I will note, though, the Nuggets will creep to 60 wins, and they will get the 1 seed, but Jokic will not three-peat as MVP. If he had
I
not
don't
won
agree.
last year,
I
they would
don't.
give him this year, but there's going to be voter fatigue. No matter what he does, I don't think he's going to get a third MVP. Let's talk about the Nuggets,
I
though,
agree.
okay? Here's a starting lineup. We know the big four: Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. at the 3, Aaron Gordon at the 4, and then Nikola Jokic at the 5. So who do they go out and get to be the perfect, basically Aaron Gordon in shooting guard form to be in the starting lineup? Bruce Brown at the exception, 6 something a year, 2 years, player option the second year, which I'm sure he's going to turn down after he plays so well this year in the perfect role, in the perfect system for Bruce Brown, who can hit the 3 at a 40% clip, albeit on not massive volume, can defend 1s, 2s, and smaller 3s, and is a fantastic cutter. Who is he going to link up with for dunk after dunk or layups in the paint from Jokic? Because Bruce Brown knows when to cut and how hard to cut. It's the perfect pickup. I'm sorry. They might start Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but they're going to find out sooner rather than later that Bruce Brown is the pick. The bench is still great. Bones Highland, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They bought Christian Brown, who looks pretty solid. Peyton Watson has flashed a little bit since being drafted. DeAndre Jordan, sure, but Zeke Naji I like off the bench too. And never forget about Ish Smith. Ish Smith has been a good backup point guard for like a decade. Just been straight up a good backup point guard for a decade, and every team that acquires him is surprised by how impactful he can be, and he's going to do it for Denver too. I love it. I don't know what their ceiling in the playoffs are. Truthfully, I still think they might have some deficiencies on the wing for some of these more elite teams, specifically the Clippers. But Dre, the Nuggets, the number 1 seed, how we feel?
I like the Nuggets this year. I like the Nuggets a lot. This is going to be a big year. Jokic has his other guys back. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray is back. Jamal Murray looks great. Jamal Murray actually looks pretty solid. I know that he did go down with an injury, I believe, but I think that he will be fine, as the season progresses. But I like this team to a degree. They still got a great, production in the second unit. Obviously, having guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, that I think he could definitely be a really great, solid role player as well for the team. But you still got guys like Bones Highland.
Bones, man.
I hate that they have to get rid of a guy like JaMychal Green, but it's definitely understandable. I'm not big. I mean, you already know my opinion. I'm not really too big on the DeAndre Jordan signing, but I guess it could be solid to a degree.
I don't think so. I think Zeke Naji just passes him, or guys like Hassan Whiteside and Dwight Howard and Derek Gafford is still out there as well. Just got waived. Also, don't forget about Jeff Green, who accepted his player option. They've got good wings, like actually good wings in Denver.
That's true. That's true. That's really, really true. So I think this is going to be Denver's year to really take control of the Western Conference.
Man.
I don't know if it results in a conference finals appearance or an NBA finals appearance, but this is going to be a definitely more improved Denver Nuggets team than what we saw last year. We saw what Jokic was capable of doing, leading the Nuggets to the 6th seed last year. Now that he has his guys back in Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and then, of course, the Aaron Gordon as well, the Nuggets are going to be reaching bigger heights this year. So I'm definitely excited to see what they can do this year.
I love that roster, man. I'm going to try and catch them, even though they're not one of the 5 teams that I have on my list this year. I think even if they're not the 1 seed and if they're fully healthy this year, anything short of the conference finals would be a huge feel like a huge disappointment for the Nuggets, who they're back. I'm very excited. Love the Nuggets. Love the team. That is the Western Conference predictions we have. Dre, anything else in recent news that we didn't cover? I think we got every team in there, but there's some Eastern Conference stuff that we might have forgotten.
We could definitely discuss some Eastern stuff. I'm not really sure if anything really sticks out or not.
I'll take a look at our DMs because we always say, Pat Connaughton's going to be out for 3 weeks with a calf strain. Here's the thing. Him and Chris are now going to be out for approximately the first month of the season, probably less than that, but let's be pessimistic and say the first month. There's almost no reason not to give Marjon Beauchamp minutes at this point, and I think that's actually going to be a good thing for the team overall. So I am trying to look at it from the bright side in the fact that it's time for Marjan to get minutes, and I think he's going to do well. Nate Robinson battling kidney failure, undergoing treatment. One of our favorite
Yeah, I
like
love Nate.
players and guys in the league for years and years and years. Prayers out to Nate. Hope he's doing all right. Sharif got cut again. Your boy got cut again. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, man. I mean, these guys like Sharif Cooper got cut, LiAngelo Ball got cut, which I'm sure everybody kind of expected.
Everyone saw it, yeah.
I think it's time for Sharif because I mean, we all know that Sharif is very talented. We know that he's a terrific playmaker, a terrific finisher around the rim. But this is just my opinion, man. I think it's just time to kind of put that pride to the side and possibly go do a few years overseas, which is nothing wrong with it. You know, continue to increase your value, continue to show what you're worth for like in probably the next 2 to 3 years. And you just never know. I mean, maybe an NBA executive could possibly take notice and they'll want to sign you. So, you know, Sharif, the thing about Sharif is that Sharif, even though he has some great showings in the G League, but I don't know, it's like that confidence of being on the NBA floor just has not really been the best for him. Like, you know, I've seen a lot of turnovers. I've just seen like I don't know. I just don't see the same confidence on the NBA floor as I have at the G League because in the G League he played phenomenal. I don't have the exact stats, but he had triple double performances. He had 40-point games. So Sharif, I'm still a believer that Sharif can be a starting point guard in the NBA. That's just my opinion. I know that he can be undersized. He's not really the biggest factor on the defensive end. I mean, he's a good team defender, but he's not really like a lockdown defender. But with his playmaking ability, he has improved his shooting to a degree, and on top of it, he's a really good finisher around the rim as well. I still feel like, you know, possibly within the next few years, if he does continue to increase his value, he can be a point guard for an NBA team someday.
A couple last things. Jordan Poole signs for 140. Are you mad at that?
Not mad at it at all. I mean, Jordan Poole had a phenomenal season last year. In my opinion, he should have been I don't know if he should have been most improved player, but he definitely should have got considered. Yeah, or I mean, he should have definitely got consideration for most improved candidate. And then, of course, Andrew Wiggins as well, who got the bag as well, who had a phenomenal season last year with the team. So,
took like a 10-mil pay cut.
Exactly. So, I mean, you definitely got to give credit to the front office, man. I mean, they're definitely taking care of the players, making sure everybody's locked in. And, you know, we're just going to keep continuing to this, you know, fight, just continue to compete for championships.
Bob Myers is having a great summer so far, for sure. A couple last things. I had Dennis Schroeder might have a long-term injury. We talked about that with his toe. That sucks for the Lakers, but they also have 5 point guards. Last thing, let's talk about Brogdon. He had the choice between the Raptors or Celtics via trade this year, and he chose the Celtics, which is pretty easy choice. They made it to the finals last season, and they greatly could use his services. Fit in Toronto would be great as well.
Toronto would be really good.
Yeah, I think they have Fred. I don't think they have a lot of confidence in Malachi Flynn being a point guard this year. He's more of a scorer, I think. I like Malachi, and Raptors fans like him too, but point guard they could have used a little bit more. I don't know. Anything else? I'm going to plug the new shit in a little second, but you got anything coming, brother?
Well, I kind of want to get back to the Milwaukee situation because we obviously
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, we obviously know that Mitty is out, Pat Connaughton is out. So, what does the projected second unit look like? Are you running with George Hill? Are you running with Javon Carter and those guys?
Sure.
Grayson Allen. So, what does it look like?
So right now we have one starter out and we have one backup out with Pat Connaughton, who's good enough to be a starter, but we like to use him as a backup wing. There's actually rumors that it's going to be Giannis and Brooke with Drew, of course, at the 3, and then big with Bobby and small with Javon. There's talk of starting Javon with that 5 group, and I actually really, really like it. I think he's earned that. I think he plays basically a Gary Payton Jr. role in that shooting guard. Full court press, defensive pressure, and honestly, dude, he still has yet to have a bad shooting game from 3, and it's been like 30 Bucks games he's played in at this point, you know? Until it stops, I'm going to just consider him a solid shooter from now on. And at the shooting guard position, defense and shooting is all you need right now. I think that starting lineup is pretty solid. So if you look at the bench, you almost have to do George Hill as your backup guard. Mm-hmm. You have to do Marjan minutes. Wesley is battling an injury right now, but I think he's expected to be ready by the start. So let's say
Does
Wesley.
Nwora get playing time?
I think Nora gets playing time at the beginning of the year because that's what the Bucks like to do is give Jordan Nora some playing time. And then if Bobby's starting, you probably get some Sandro Mamukalashvili minutes off of the bench, and then Ibaka as the backup center. So 5, 6 guys, 7 guys off the bench. Even with the Middleton and Pat injuries, they'd almost rather play more guys to get more guys experience. So I think it's fine. I think it might be a mid-start to the season just because they are struggling with some guys and they probably don't have as much chemistry with the guys that are going to have to soak up those minutes. But I really like that starting lineup, especially with Javon Carter in there. And I think if he plays well enough in that starting lineup, it guarantees him the backup point guard role when those guys get healthy. How do you feel about that?
I like it. I know that Milwaukee's hammered with injuries, but I even told you earlier. I think they'll be okay. I mean, they may have some struggles to begin the year, but like you mentioned, you don't see Mitty missing more than a month, or even
Right,
Pat Connaughton missing more than a month. So
right.
if they can get through like 3 weeks, like let's say in 6 or in 10 games, they could start like 6-4 or 7-3. I think they'll be okay.
I agree, and I think that's what we've got for today's episode. Dre, you're recording more, I'm sure, probably even later today. Let us know what else you're working on. Promote the Patreon.
Yes, so definitely, first and foremost, follow us on Twitter at the Hoop Truther Pod. Follow my guy Agu. Follow myself at Nick Andre ATR. I definitely am doing another stream later tonight. Count the Bucket. Follow us there at Count Bucket USN. There's going to be an abundance of us there. I think it's going to be like 7 or 8 guys of us, or 7 or 8 of us on there. Doing an NBA preview, talking probably best in the West, best in the East. So definitely be tuned in for that. Definitely follow my Patreon as well. Subscribe if you haven't yet. It's definitely growing. I have a new series getting ready to drop in the beginning of November titled NFL Players at Hoop. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And besides that, I have other content rolling as well. So I'm always dropping new stuff, on the regular.
So yes, what he said at Hoop Truther Pod on Twitter, Hoop Truther Studios on YouTube. I finally have something new to talk about. It's been a hot minute, but here's the deal. I, as always, will be watching basically every game that the Bucks play this year. And in addition to that, I bought the Ultimate Clippers fan package, whatever it's called, $350, $35 for 10 months. For 35 games. That's $10 a game for almost a season ticket. It's 300s level. But I grew up on the 400s, baby, so it means nothing to me. I figure if I'm going to be watching most of the Clippers games this year and most of the Bucks games this year, that I should be covering both teams. Coincidentally, they're both my finals picks, too, so I anticipate a Bucks-Clippers final. I'll be scouting the finals teams of my opinion for the entire year, so naturally I'm finally doing it with a Substack, the most cliche thing that an NBAer can do right now, but it's weekly writing, and I've been trying to get myself back into it for a long time. It's just called Bucks Clips. I know it sounds like I'm part of the video department for the Milwaukee Bucks, but I'm not. It's just called Bucks Clips. I'll be dropping the first post tomorrow morning when we're recording, but when you're listening to this, it'll be Monday morning. It'll be out. I'll have tweeted out the link, and I'll have all my buddies retweet it, so you guys will definitely see it. First post is going to be long. I talk about every single player on both the Bucks and the Clippers roster, and then I give them my season predictions where I think they're going to finish in the East and the West. They might be different from what we discussed today. I wrote it at a different time. I think it's a lot of fun. I curse in it. I talk the way that I talk in this podcast, so it's not it's more personable. I feel like it's not meant to be a dissertation or hard-hitting analysis. Yeah, I am. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for more hard-hitting analysis, head to like Mark Schindler or something. This is different. It's more for fun, but I am going to be dissecting those teams. So check it out. I would really appreciate if you guys subscribe. Monday mornings, probably 9 a.m. PST, they'll be dropping every week. Thoughts on the Bucks, thoughts on the Clippers, and thoughts about a random third team, just a team that I want to talk about that month. Keep an eye out for the stuff. because Bucks Clips is coming to you weekly,
Bucks
and
Clips.
this podcast is coming to you weekly. We will catch you next week where we're recapping the first week of the 2022-2023 NBA season. Dre, it was an absolute fucking pleasure to have you back on. I'm glad that the Wi-Fi is back on.
Yes,
Deuces.
sir. Yes, sir. Deuces.